What's up everyone, Darcblade here with an information video going over some of the nerfs and buffs to the various aspects of Monster Hunter World Iceborne. Now when Monster Hunter World Iceborne releases, there's going to be a few changes, most notably to some of the skills that are heavily used. These include a weakness exploit, maximum might, and more. On top of that as well, following feedback from the Monster Hunter World Iceborne beta, there have been changes made to the Gunlance, which was arguably the weakest of the weapons when it came to new mechanics and moves. Now there have been tons of information floating around the internet regarding certain nerfs and buffs, but in a live stream put on by Capcom today, they actually confirmed some of them, and these are the ones we're going to be discussing today. So let's get into the video and see what's changed. First of all are elemental weapons. Basically, long story short, the maximum attack power boost from elemental attack skills, so your jaws, the skills found on armor and such, has overall been increased, ultimately making elemental weapons far more efficient. They put up a nice template showing and comparing the elemental stats for certain weapons compared to what they're going to be like in Iceborne. And as you can see, it's a general increase across the board, making elemental weapons even more viable. On top of that, the elemental skill to whatever you're using, so thunder attack, fire attack, whatever, it now goes up to a maximum of level 6, increasing weapons' elemental potential even further. Lastly, in regards to elemental weapons as well, they've added a new skill that grants the free element status and increases elemental attack damage when continuously attacking a monster. And more than likely, if this is in dual form, it's going to be in that new highest tier dual sockets. But nonetheless, elemental builds are starting to look a lot more appealing with Monster Hunter World Iceborne and its changes. Anyway, next is the non-elemental boost skill. Basically, this has been nerfed. They're reducing the effect from just 10% down to just 5%. And whilst this may not seem much on paper, this is quite a hard hit to non-elemental boost fans. For me personally, the main appeal about non-elemental boost weapons and builds is that you can take the build or weapon into any fight and not have to worry about a monster's elemental weaknesses. Anyway, let's move on to the two biggest changes. First, to weakness exploit. Now this may annoy some, but I understand why they've made the changes here. Basically, as you see on screen here, they've nerfed the overall effect of weakness exploit. Before, weakness exploit could go up to a maximum of 50% increase to your affinity when attacking a monster's weak spot. Now it's a maximum of 30%. However, this is now going to be working in conjunction with the clutch claw. Regardless of what weapon you're using, you can tenderize a monster's various body parts with the clutch claw. Okay, granted, weapons that cause them to drop slinger ammo will have to clutch claw to that body part a little bit more than the heavier weapons that can tenderize a monster's body part in just one hit. But it means when you tenderize a monster's weak point, it will add a percentage on to whatever level of weakness exploit you have. So take level 3 for example, the base is 30% increase, and when you're attacking a monster that's body part has been tenderized, that will add a further 20% onto your weakness exploit skill at level 3, overall granting you that 50% that you would have in the base version of Monster Hunter World. So it's forcing us to use the clutch claw in order to get the most out of weakness exploit. And I can understand why they're doing this. They're making us use the new mechanic, and whilst I personally don't mind it, I actually quite enjoy the clutch claw and how it works, I know there are some out there who don't enjoy the clutch claw, and this may be slightly annoying to them. So a big change to one of the most used skills in the game. Anyway, let's move on to the next big change, which is to maximum might. Maximum might is one of my favourite skills. It increases your affinity as long as your stamina is kept full. Now they've made a few changes. First of all, there is now 5 levels of maximum might instead of just 3. On top of that as well, your stamina has to be kept full for a certain period for the affinity increase to take effect. With this new change, it will be 5 seconds, except for when you're at level 5. They've also added a feature that when you use stamina to dodge, block an attack, whatever, then maximum might will stay in effect for a certain period, between 2 and 4 seconds, between level 1 and 4, or immediately at level 5. Level 4 and 5 ultimately seems the best out of this bunch, because not only does it give us an extra 10% affinity going up to 40, whilst in the base version of Monster Hunter World it's only up to a maximum of 30, but at level 5 it activates as soon as your stamina is full, so there's no waiting period for it to activate. Nonetheless, this is going to be interesting to see how viable maximum might becomes, and whilst initially I thought this was going to be a nerf to the skill, it seems it's just changed slightly. I do like that it can go up to level 5 now and that we get a maximum of 40% boost to our affinity, but the stamina management is going to be a lot more crucial when it comes to the new way maximum might works. But anyway, let's move on to the last set of changes, which is to the Gunlance. So these are weapon specific changes. Basically the Gunlance seemed the most underwhelming of the weapons when it came to new mechanics in Monster Hunter World Iceborne, and it seems Capcom have noticed this and made a few adjustments and changes. This is really focused around the new move, the Worm Stake Blast. The Worm Stake Blast normally allows you to insert whatever slinger ammo you have into your Worm Stake cannon and fire out a detonating mine of sorts. This attaches itself to a monster, and follow-up shelling attacks against the mine will detonate, causing more damage to your target. But anyway, first of all, the Worm Stake Blast detonation damage has been slightly increased. The Worm Stake Blast will also load faster, so when you load it in via holding L2 and then triangle and circle, there has been a guard point added to when you perform the Worm Stake Blast loaded animation. If you have the guard skill as well, you can use the Worm Stake Blast straight away as a guard reaction. This is probably one of the biggest changes I think with the Worm Stake Blast in my opinion, as it allows it to be used in a more defensive way. Also, because the loading animation is quite long, it also helps that we can now potentially block an incoming attack while doing it. Anyway, next, if the Worm Stake Blast does not hit its mark, the equipped slinger ammo will simply just drop to the ground now for you to pick up again, so it doesn't go to waste. And finally, and not related to the Worm Stake Blast, is the wide sweep attack will no longer knock down fellow hunters. So great changes there. Additionally as well, after you perform the load Worm Stake Blast, which is L2 and triangle and circle, you can now follow this up. It combos into other moves, as shown on the screen here. So it looks like the Gunlance is getting a little bit of adjustments made before the launch of Monster Hunter World Iceborne. Whether other weapons will have that, I'm not so sure. Personally, I think most of the weapons were in a good place, bar the Gunlance, but this has been now addressed. So that's about it for what was revealed during the Capcom stream. Obviously some major changes to the most popular skills out there, for good or bad. Obviously elemental weapons have been buffed, the non-elemental skill has been nerfed, weakness exploit has been changed to make it a little bit more complicated than it previously was, and whilst not outwardly a nerf, it's definitely been changed, and maximum might has had a lot of rework done to it. Whether nerfs or buffs, there's normally reason behind the changes. But what are your thoughts? Leave a comment down below, and until next time, I've been Darcblade, bringing you an information video going over some of the balance changes to Monster Hunter World Iceborne. Hope you enjoyed the video, thanks for watching, subscribe and like for more.